And then he drops out after a catastrophic debate performance. And they set Kamala Harris up to fail. That was a 3-month campaign, and she was supposed to introduce herself to the American people. No wonder people were Googling, did Joe Biden drop out? And so...
No. No. You're saying 3 months wasn't long enough?
I mean, it was too long. It was long enough.
It was long enough.
If they had a primary...
It's not that they didn't have time to introduce. They met someone and they didn't like them.
If they had had a primary, they wouldn't have picked her. And if they had, she would have been able to rough out those edges that then she basically has to start from scratch with a campaign team she didn't hire that didn't like.
In this segment, things took a wild turn on Real Time with Bill Maher. Known for leaning left, Maher surprised everyone by firmly pushing back against a couple of particularly woke guests. And he didn't hold back. You know, it's getting strange when even Bill Maher is stepping in to question the logic coming from his own side of the political spectrum. The conversation quickly spiraled when his guests began promoting claims that mirrored the very same conspiracy theories they often criticize conservatives for. Here's the irony. For years, conservatives have raised concerns about election integrity, calling for reforms and transparency. But instead of a fair debate, they were often brushed off as alarmists or labeled as dangerous. Now, some of the loudest voices on the left are suddenly casting doubt on elections themselves, implying bizarrely that Donald Trump somehow rigged things in his favor. It's a textbook case of double standards. Back to the showdown. Maher wasn't having it. In this clip, you'll see him systematically dismantle his guests' arguments, exposing the contradictions and overblown rhetoric with his trademark wit and precision. It's one of those moments where logic takes center stage and the usual talking points fall apart.
Candidates, especially the Democrats, do to get voters annoys them. The constant texting. Did you get the texts like from Tim Walz every 5 minutes and like always begging for money and knocking on doors? And we've got people knocking on doors. People don't want knocking on your door. Who in this day and age wants someone knocking on? Kids don't even like it when a phone call. That's like too much of a invasion of their privacy, which they don't care about. Who might emerge as the strongest Democratic opposition leader in the next Trump era? Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, like Adam Schiff, he won right big. And
he won big. I like Westmore.
Westmore's fantastic. He's in Maryland.
Yep.
But who's going to be the one? Gavin Newsom, we have here in this state. He's already like called the legislature to. Trump hasn't done anything yet, but I understand the.
This was the problem. You know, there was a 2014 study that showed that Fortune 500 companies were more likely to pick a female CEO if the company was struggling, basically setting women up for the big job, but to also fail. If they did well, fine. But if they failed, like, look, we have a female CEO while failing. And that's what I feel like they did to Kamala Harris. When Biden refused to step aside and not run again.
He claimed that the Democratic Party was somehow forced to make Kamala Harris their candidate. Yeah, that doesn't hold water. The party had complete freedom to choose whoever they believed would give them the best shot. If the so-called masterminds behind the scenes are really as strategic as some people think, why would they back someone they expected to fail? It just doesn't add up. If Harris was truly seen as a losing bet from day one, why not go with someone stronger, more electable, more in tune with the base? The idea that they had no choice is a weak excuse, not a serious argument. Now let's shift to another strange theory that keeps popping up. This one about Fortune 500 companies supposedly naming women as CEOs only when they're on the edge of collapse. Sounds dramatic, right? Here's what's actually more realistic. When a company's in trouble, leadership is usually willing to shake things up. After years of going through the same cycle of male executives with lackluster results, they may look to a woman to bring in a fresh approach, a potential game changer. That's not a plot to set women up to fail. It's often a last-ditch effort to save the company. But instead of viewing that as a bold move, some spin it into a dark narrative, suggesting it's part of a hidden agenda to blame women for disaster. That kind of thinking shows just how far off the rails some of these woke takes have gone. Rather than acknowledging the complexity of high-stakes leadership decisions, they default to identity-driven conspiracy theories that ignore nuance and context. It's not just misleading, it's a sign of how obsessed some corners of the left have become with symbolism over substance.
I think that that is a very high degree of difficulty to put on anybody. And I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I tend to agree with Sarah that probably in a fully litigated primary, she probably would not have been the Democratic nominee, but will never know that. But I will tell you that, like, there's never been anybody who's had the difficulty of that situation, elevated that late in the campaign. Why?
Needed to run away from
Bill, I don't know if you know this, but the Vice President of the United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
Like, you couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
I mean, this idea that the idea in a mass media age that 107 days is not long enough to know somebody.
You are way overestimating the American people in terms of what they.
No.
You have someone like Donald Trump has become a universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
Okay.
Barack Obama becomes president of the United States after running for 2 years as president, runs a 50-state primary, is on television, does dozens of Democratic debates, and by the time at the end of that, most people knew who he was. Most people.
Yeah.
You drop somebody into the middle of the top of the ticket, 3 days out, 3 months out, you are going to have to spend a lot of time trying to introduce yourself to the country while also...
As expected, Bill Maher came in strong, delivering sharp, well-timed arguments that left his guests struggling to keep up. He didn't just steer the conversation, he took full control of it. This clip is definitely one for the books, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more thought-provoking moments just like this.
At the top, we were talking about this, and he made a very good point that every other country in the world can do it in months, sometimes weeks. Why can every other country do it in that short a period of time? Are they all so much brighter than America? I don't think so.
Well,
mostly parliamentary. I mean, there's like literal reasons, right? We don't have a parliamentary system.
I mean,
we also have a First Amendment.
we
don't make people campaign this whole time. The American people want to give them $20, and so they can afford it. I mean, small dollar donors are arguably the worst thing that's happened to our politics, as it turned out.
It's a small dollar donor didn't make $20 billion. No.
A lot of it.
Some of it, yeah.
And they represent about 2% of our country.
There's a few special PACs in there that saw $100 million plus.
Those are bad too.
I think you can believe that you could have shorter elections in America, but it's not like we don't know. In Britain, for instance, when you have a short election, it's not like you don't know who the leader of the party is for months and years before that.
You're either the person who's Googling the day before, did Biden drop out, or you know in a week. You know, did anyone in this audience not know enough about Kamala Harris pretty much after a week to make a decision? No. Yeah, you just people.
How are you going to enforce that?
We just get sicker of them.
What? So
how are you going to tell people they can't talk about politics?
What?
How with free speech that I know you love?
Yeah.
How are you going to limit people's ability to run?
Now, I don't always see eye to eye with him, but this time he nailed it. His take on cleaning up American politics was refreshingly direct. Eliminate lobbyists, ban third-party donations, and make sure politicians live solely on their government salaries. No side hustles, no shady deals, just a clean slate. Sounds like a dream fix, right? But let's be honest, even with those changes, corruption would likely find a way to sneak in. That's the ugly truth about politics. Still, it's a step in the right direction. What really made this episode stand out, though, was Maher's takedown of his two woke guests. I have no idea who they were, but their arguments were so far out there, it was hard to take them seriously. Maher didn't let it slide. He challenged them point by point with sharp, no-nonsense comebacks that left no room for spin. Was Maher right to call them out? And do you believe there's still hope for fixing American politics with the system we've got? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see where everyone stands. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the other clips on the channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.